will be beginning in about 2 minutes.
Hold everybody.
Urban trail. One little fact about Kentucky that most people do not know is that it comes from the Cherokee Kentucky, meaning the land of tomorrow, the place of the future. And today you'll be hearing from 5 amazing young men and women how they will be hoping to share and to shape their region.
5 days ago, on July 14th, Moshe Silman, an Israeli Jewish man, set himself on fire during a demonstration calling for social justice in Israel. Exactly 1 year ago today, 1 million Israelis from all over the country marched together for social justice in Israel. 1 year ago today, tens of thousands of working Israelis slept in tents on the streets of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa and Hadera as an act of protest for hiking living expenses in Israel. 1 year ago, in the summer of 2011, we young Israelis, inspired by our neighbors in Tunisia, Egypt and Libya, practiced our right under what America calls the First Amendment. Our right to be heard, our right to be respected, and our right to change. Until now, our voice, the voice of young Israelis, had not been heard. The interest of young Israeli people had not been represented in these corridors. So now, I'm standing here at the American Congress, speaking to you, Mr. Prime Minister Netanyahu. I'm here today at the same establishment, same street, same building, where you addressed this same American Congress in such a confident and comfortable manner 1 year ago. I'm standing here today, Mr. Prime Minister, embracing your words from the speech you gave here at this same Congress. You said Israel has no better friend than America, and America has no better friend than Israel. I'm standing today, and I understand, Mr. Prime Minister, understand how this high podium and great American audience blinds you from seeing the path in which you, Mr. Prime Minister, are leading the country into. A path that may be portrayed as safe and comfortable in many ways, but the end of this path entails a great danger to the state of Israel and to the Jewish people. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm Jewish, I'm Muslim, I'm Christian, I'm Druze, and I'm Palestinian. I'm all of them together, and I'm none of them at once. But mostly, I'm your constituency. In about an hour, we will get off this stage, but this audience will not remain the same. Hopefully, by the time we get off this stage, this audience will no longer be your comfortable audience, Mr. Prime Minister. And the reason for that is simple, yet not easy to digest. We are a group of young Israeli and Palestinians that represent the hope for a different, more secure and prosperous future. We are here in the United States of America's Congress to replace the notion of fear that the government is institutionalizing with our sense of hope and possibilities. My name is Leo Frankenstein, and my story is a common one, the story of so many Israelis. My ancestors escaped Russia and Poland and found refuge in Argentina and Uruguay. Later, in the early 80s, my parents left and immigrated to Israel as they felt it would be the one place which they could provide them with a sense of security. I was born to a normal family. I had a normal childhood. And throughout school, I lived without sense of conflict or danger, as a child should live. That perception held until the outbreak of the Second Intifada, which included weekly and sometimes daily terrorist attacks in every major city in Israel. My city, Hadera, is a city of about 800 inhabitants. The city suffered from frequent attacks that resulted with dozens being killed and hundreds injured. This instilled a sense of fear in us, to the extent that going to a restaurant, going to a movie, or just going outside in the street was always accompanied by a sense of fear and insecurity. My first direct encounter with the conflict was in October of 2001, when I was 15. My friend and I were on the bus, heading back from school. As we arrived at the station, my friend got off the bus and joined a crowd of passengers, but I stayed. From that moment, my friend stepped off the bus. All I can remember is the sound of shooting and the bus driver driving in a rush away from the scene. More than 33 people were injured from that shooting, and 3 were killed. Only later I discovered that my close friend got off the bus and turned right to wave at me, say hello. But most of the people turned left and they were shot. My story is one with a happy ending. But many of the people I know, including my friends here, have much more tragic stories. There is an old tale in the Middle East about a man who left his 3 sons with 17 camels. To his first son, he left half of the camels. To his second son, he left a third of the camels. And to his last son, he left 1/9 of the camels. As 17 camels cannot be divided by 2, by 3, or by 9, the brothers had a conflict. So they engaged in negotiation. They went unsuccessful negotiations, so they went and spoke with a wise woman. The woman took a few days to think and came back to them saying she is sorry because she cannot help them. One thing she can do is give them 1 camel that she has. So now having 18 camels, the first brother got 9, the second got 6, and the third got 2 camels. Combining 9, 6, and 2, you get again 17. So the brothers gave back the remaining camel to the wise woman. In every conflict, there are 2 sides. But what is often not seen is that there is always a third entity at play. The surrounding communities, families, friends. This third entity reminds us and shows us that what is really at stake, reminds us and shows us what really is at stake, and they are there to present us with opportunities. America, you are our friend. We need you to be that wise woman. Not by applauding our leadership or imposing actions on us, but rather by opening our eyes to the possibility that we, as a part of the conflict, just cannot see. Right now, I'm a student. And not so long ago, I finished 5 years of military service in the Israeli Defense Forces. Moving from the real practical world of the military to the theoretical and comfortable academia, I realized how easy it is to just accept. No responsibility, just accepting whatever we are being fed. But I also realized the value of questioning, asking why. By whom are we being educated? What are their agendas? Now I'm calling you, the American Congress, to question. Ask why. Ask why at the same time we are here presenting the voices of hope and future, people prefer to enter a room next to us and be at a conference for the anniversary of the failed Oslo process. Why applaud the leaders who nurture the problem rather than try to solve it? Why? Why after 64 years of history, independence, wars, achievements, developments, progress, culture, prosperity, fear is the platform on which governments are elected in Israel? Dear friends, Israel is in the hearts of all of us. I'm standing here today at the same establishment same street, same building, with so many great leaders being before. I'm standing here today honored by the unique privilege that was given to me by the American Congress. I'm standing here today because today is the time to acknowledge that the reality in our region cannot be maintained as it is. Change is needed. Israel's position in the Middle East is constantly escalating, deteriorating relations with Turkey and Egypt, tensions with Lebanon and Iran, and the Palestinian conflict, which is burning inside of us. Just as the three brothers needed the 18th camel to reframe their situation, we need you. We need you as a third party to present us with the opportunities that we cannot see. My dear friends, I urge you, be that wise woman for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lior. Our next speaker is a strong young lady and a student of business economics. Please help me welcome Mary Syed.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to speak to you today at this U.S. Congressional Forum. For many years, this venue has hosted debates where numerous individuals have discussed how I should live my life back home. Decisions have been made here that had affected me and are still continuing to affect me. In the opinion of some in these hallways, Palestinians can't even decide on the color of their homes. This Congress, that for many years has been the forum for mostly Israeli leaders to influence politicians and the media, is now hosting me, a Palestinian woman from Ramallah, who will today make the attempt to dissolve some of the stereotypes that I believe have been built over the years. I am on equal ground, and I am inviting you to be fair in your judgment and walk with me in this path to explore the other side of the Palestinian society. My name is Mary Syed. Last year, on another leadership program, I was asked, if you were an object, what would you be? I simply said, a mobile phone. My mentor paused, smiled at me, and waited for elaboration. Like me, I said, a mobile phone evolves over time. Mobile phones are multifunctional. They roam and adapt to different cultures, and they are diverse in application. I am also 22, the age of mobile phones. Palestinian society is evolving. We stopped victimizing ourselves long ago. We are no longer helpless, powerless people devoid of capacities. I know you hear about martyrs, death, bombing, tragedies, but we also graduate from schools, get married, have babies, and celebrate successes. As the Palestinian poet, Ms. Rafif Ziadeh says, we teach life, sir. We Palestinians wake up every morning to teach the rest of the world life, sir. I was raised in a small town near Ramallah, surrounded by olive trees, Birzeit, meaning the oil well. My town has been tied very closely to the educational revolution in Palestine since 1924. It hosts one of the oldest and most notable higher educational institutions in Palestine, Birzeit University. Therefore, getting a good education and pursuing higher education are major values in my family. Being educated is the only weapon you can stand in the face of the world with, my father always tells me. Despite the fact that I am living in a socially, politically, and economically challenged area, my parents overcame their protective and sometimes overprotective nature and gave me every opportunity to grow and further my education. From a very young age, I was encouraged to get involved in different organizations and programs. When I was 17, I was a counselor at a summer camp working with Palestinian youth from different backgrounds. For the first time, I met girls who came from families that didn't share the same commitment towards women's education as my family does. At 17, these girls were expected to get married and start a family. By the end of the summer, I managed to help 3 girls to stand up to their fathers and convince them to choose education and delay marriage. 3 girls is a very small number, but that was the moment I realized that I could make a difference in my community. And I was determined to continue making a difference by becoming an independent, confident, and an active young woman in Ramallah. I am a big believer of the saying, if opportunity does not knock, build a door. I believe in pursuing the hidden opportunity and helping others to find it. Every person is born with an ability to make a difference. It's a matter of choice whether you want to act or simply remain silent and stay in the shadow. I've made my choice. I have always been outspoken and involved, and I will never stop being so. As a Palestinian woman who has been given the opportunity to stand here before you, it is my privilege to be part of a long line of Palestinian women who played major roles in our society since the beginning of our conflict with Israel. Women have been leaders in establishing charities, initiating political debates, starting small businesses, and sustaining the society at difficult times. Unfortunately, instead of these roles growing, women's leadership and participation in the society has been suffocated by masculine ignorance and arrogance in the name of outdated traditions. What I am passionate about is to find ways to help more females in education, pursue their interests, and become more active in building a Palestinian society. Palestinian women have so much potential, but they need windows of hope and doors of opportunities to be built around them. Living in Ramallah, the center of the West Bank, and what many people consider the economic capital of occupied Palestine, I have also come to realize that I am living in an economy that is very dependent on foreign aid. Last May, I graduated with a degree in business economics from Birzeit University. My dissertation elaborated upon the impact of foreign aid on the Palestinian economy. One of the main conclusions I drew was that due to Palestinian dependency on foreign aid, the productivity of Palestinians is decreasing. Therefore, in order to boost Palestinian productivity, Palestine must wean itself of its dependency on foreign aid so that Palestinians can achieve greater self-sufficiency and autonomy in the future. I strongly believe that in order for Palestinians to be able to attain a truly independent state, we must invest more in supporting our entrepreneurs and strengthening the economic and business base in Palestine, and ensuring that women will be still at the center of this investment. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Mary. It is my privilege to introduce Congressman Christopher Van Hollen, representing the 8th District of Maryland and ranking member of the Budget Committee.
Well, let me start where Mary left off and say to all of you, thank you all for being here. And I want to thank the News Story leadership program for making this possible, and to all of you who are here to support the New Story Leadership Program. I do want to thank some of the people who really helped found it. I hope the rest of you in this room will help make it continue to grow. Paul Costello is somebody I've known for a long time. Thank you, Paul, for your wonderful leadership. Joyce Schwartz, I don't know if Joyce is here. I share Joyce is here. Great to see you. Bob Van Boelen, a number of my constituents have been here. I'm sure there are others, as well as people from throughout the country. I just want to thank all of you for making this program possible. I was a big supporter and active with some of the earlier efforts, the Ireland program and some of the efforts with respect to South Africa. And I've seen those programs be part of what ultimately became successful efforts at breaking down barriers and bringing greater peace and stability to places like Ireland and South Africa. And I do firmly believe that when young people have the opportunity to get together and share stories with themselves and also share their stories with all of you, that we can really begin to make that process work. That a lot of ripples can come together to help create a wave, and this is all part of building a process for peace and security in Israel, the Middle East, between Israelis and Palestinians. I won't have a chance to hear all the stories, but I did hear from Lior, is that
Yes.
and from Mary. And just listening to those stories, it's clear how much we all have to learn, because a big part of this process, of course, is breaking down false stereotypes, really listening, asking the hard questions, as Mary said, and we all need to do more of that, regardless of what our experience may be, our background may be, where we begin on a particular issue in terms of the debate, because by listening to all different perspectives and breaking down some of the stereotypes, we often end up in a very different place in the debates. And of course, that is the goal of this important program, is to bring people together, to listen to each other, and for all of us to listen to what they have to share. As Mary said, ultimately everybody has to take some responsibility for trying to change things that they believe need to be changed. And so I want to thank you for taking that initiative. Congress needs to be part of the solution. I hope we can be the wise woman. Hope there's some wise men around too, that we can help provide the extra camel to make everything work, because the United States can play a critical role, of course, in trying to bring the parties together, and we all would be well served if, as we do that, we listen to the voices of these young people. So let me just end with one of my favorite sayings. It was from Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "The world needs dreamers and the world needs doers, but most of all, the world needs dreamers who do." And if all of us can work to try and fulfill our visions or dreams, they won't go unrealized. I think that if we all work hard at it and break down those barriers and break down the stereotypes and share the stories, we can fulfill the goal of the New Story Leadership, which is to change this story and make sure that instead of one of constant conflict, it's one of lasting peace and security and friendship. So thank, again, all of you for being here today. Thank everybody who's been part of making this program possible. Please talk to your friends and neighbors about it, because I think we need to have it continue to grow, just like some of the earlier programs upon which this is modeled. And with your help, I think we can fulfill the dreams that everybody in the region has of a peaceful, prosperous, secure place for both Israelis and Palestinians. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is a wonderful young woman who is also a rather bit of a celebrity in Tel Aviv, as she is a journalist for Channel 10 News. Please help me welcome Noah Shapir.
March 16, 2006 was the first time I ever cut class. I skipped math in order to study for a history exam, and I was sitting in a library inside of a school up in the beautiful Carmel Mountain in the city of Haifa. Landscapes of my childhood. I was 15 years old, the youngest of 3 siblings. Ido, a fighter in the paratroopers commando unit, and Hila, the eldest sister. That morning, while I was studying about the emergence of the Zionist movement, on the other side of town, a knock was heard on the door of my house. I remember that on the way to school that day, I knew my brother was somewhere in the West Bank in a special operation, but I didn't know where or why. I remember that my parents were worried. As I was studying, hiding in the library, I was suddenly found by a teacher and summoned to the principal's office. I was sure I got in trouble, and I planned how to promise never to skip another class again. But in the office, 3 officers were waiting. "You may want to sit down," one said. I didn't want to sit, but I did. "Noah, your brother Ido was killed tonight in the city of Jenin." I was silent. I did not know what to say or think. My brother was such a geek. During high school, he was shy, quiet, and introverted. When he joined the army, everything changed. From a tall, skinny boy, he became a young, strong man. He opened up to people, and everyone could see the change in him. He was my mentor. He was my friend. He was my brother. But now he's gone. Later, we learned he was killed from friendly fire. His friend shot him by mistake during a military operation. Ido is one of tens of thousands of soldiers that have died since 1948, the year Israel was established. On the other side of this story, there are countless Palestinian families that have lost their sons and their daughters. Before my brother was killed, the conflict was present, but it wasn't personal. Afterwards, it became my mission to influence the reality that have changed my life. It might have been easier to be scared to hate, but I choose differently. Since 2006, a lot has happened. 2 wars were fought. I graduated, joined the military, finished my service, and now I'm here with new story leadership to the Middle East, spending the summer in the United States, and turning for the Obama campaign. What I learned more about is the relationship between the United States and Israel, and how it is grounded in a foreign aid that has gradually grown to $3.1 billion this year. The special bond between the 2 countries is undeniable, but it has an obstacle, and let me explain. I define myself as progressive, but the progressive voice in Israel is weak and it's not heard. The Israeli left share the same values America shares, America stands for, and sends their sons and daughters to fight for overseas. Democracy, morality, equal human rights to all, regardless of race, religion, and gender. These values are pushed aside in the Israeli discourse. Meanwhile, the reactionary government gets funds to preserve the status quo. Every year, lobbyists live comfortably in New York, Boston, thousands of miles away from the conflict zone, lobby in favor of that yearly grant. They influence decisions that are being made right here on this hill, influencing my life. You may think the American taxpayer money supports a policy that promotes peace and stability. Unfortunately, I believe it does the opposite. But there's more to it. In the last few weeks, I attended several conferences about the Middle East with some high-profile speakers and understood a sad reality. The issues discussed were Syria, Iran nuclear, the Arab Spring, the elections in Libya. But the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was dropped to the bottom of the list. Hearing Ambassador Dennis Ross addressing the Israeli-Palestinian issue last in his speech in the New America Foundation made me realize where our peace process is on President Obama's desk. Interning for the Obama campaign taught me that this election revolves around the economy, and foreign policy issues will not sway a voter to change his mind. The world and the American public has gotten used to our conflict. Out of sight, out of mind. When the conflict was discussed in those conferences, and even here on hearings on this Hill, the same old solutions, the same old stories, with a strong sense of despair and lack of faith. America has chosen sides, supposedly my side, and is giving my government legitimacy not to act. But the international community, and especially the United States, must play a strong and significant role in our conflict. It must push both sides back to the negotiation table. Let the moderate voice be heard. Let my voice be heard. Let other voices that understand be heard, that we have had enough. I stand here surrounded by the walls that have heard some of the greatest American legislative leaders. And I want to say, reality is complicated, more complicated than Israel versus Palestine. Don't choose sides. But on the other hand, don't let us get away from our responsibility to reach a solution as soon as possible. I feel the fierce urgency of the now. As being said before me, there is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Too many lives were lost. For too long, we've been trapped in an endless cycle of violence. For too long, we've been held hostage by the hands of fear and despair. For too long, we've allowed ourselves to sit aside. Meanwhile, the earth is starting to move in Israel. After the people of Tunisia, Libya, Egypt overthrew dark regimes, the society in Israel is starting to open its eyes. What started from one tent in the city I live in, Tel Aviv, turned into a significant social movement that demands social justice. This past weekend, frustration has gotten so big that a working-class truck driver, Moshe Siman, set himself on fire and woke us up. The reality is knocking on our door. The youth of Israel is starting to take responsibility for its future, and I hope that the protesters will soon understand that society cannot be healthy in times of war. We cannot have a utopian society while 50 miles away, people's human rights are violated. Social justice and peace are interlinked. When I go home in 4 weeks, I will join the demonstrators in the streets of Tel Aviv. I will do all that I can to combine the voice of peace with the voice of social justice. In a year, I will start school, and in about 20 years, I will come back here to this building as an elected official of my country. This summer has taught me that no matter how appealing the American dream may look to a foreigner, there is one place in the world where I'm needed the most, and that is home. In retrospect, we have the tendency to justify our actions, our wars, our dead. We turn them into heroes. We glorify the cause they were killed for. I don't. My brother, Ido, died for a conflict that should have ended a long time ago. It was not justified nothing was worth it. We need new myths. We need a new story. And this is the beginning of my butterfly effect. This group of amazing leaders who are here with me today are already telling a new story. Wish us luck. Thank you.
Before we go to our next speaker, I would like to invite up Chad from Congressman Paulson's office to introduce our next speaker, Via Majada.
Hi, everybody. So first I want to say, unfortunately, Representative Mullis couldn't be here. I know that he'd like to express his gratitude and pride of being a part of this program. It's a great program, and listening to these stories kind of makes me think of my own history. My parents are from Lebanon, and my dad moved here when he was 17, and my mom moved here a couple years later when she was 18. And my primary concern when I was 15 was girls. It was not anything on the level of this. And so, firstly, I want to have a round of applause for the students. Lior and Dia for coming here. Speaking about the stereotypes that have been associated with Israel and Palestine, Congress could ironically learn something from Lior and Dia. They have kept things together just fine in our office, if any of you were wondering. So, Congress could learn a little something. And I think the lesson that we've learned, especially in our office, is that it's very important to continue reaching out. News Story Leadership is an amazing program and one that we're honored to have in the office, and we hope to continue to have students from News Story in our office and working with us. And I'm confident that with young people such as yourselves, who are amazing young people, more parents will not have to come to America as my parents did to give them stability. They'll be able to just have stability where they are. And leaving is a matter of opportunity and not safety. And whether that is to a country across the sea or just next door, that is something that we should make possible within their generations. And it's something that's very important. And thank you for being a program that exists and granting us the opportunity to have Lior and Dia in our office. It's been a great experience, and we hope to remain in contact with them. Now, I don't want to take too much time away from Dia, so I'm going to introduce him. Thank you for being here.
Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to speak before you today. My name is Via Majada. I'm a Palestinian, a descendant of a family of refugees who came originally from Haifa. My story goes back to 1948, when my family was forced into exile, into the unknown. Luckily enough, I was given everything I needed to make my life worth living. But that's not how things go with other refugee families. In 2000, the agreement that was to be the bedrock for a peaceful solution to our conflict had collapsed. We were promised a dove, but still there's a hawk in the sky. Words can never explain the road tragedy which both societies have to endure. As I grew up during the Second Intifada, events around me shaped my life in a way or another. Bombings, curfews, checkpoints, blood and tears absorbed by the land, graveyards
flooded with coffins. That is all I remember about growing up in that place. I had so much hate held on my chest for the way my childhood and my future were being stolen. I grew up with the belief that the conflict would never end until one of the nations drive the other into the sea. You might wonder, how could someone who believed such things stand here today with these people? The answer goes back to 3 years ago, when dots started growing in my mind. A program called Hands of Peace brought me, along with a group of Palestinian and Israeli teenagers, to 3 weeks of dialogue and team building here in the United States, in Washington, in Chicago, sorry. And that was the first time I encountered who were supposed to be the enemy. Back then, I did not know what to expect or what their reactions would be. The first dialogue session we had was surprisingly quiet. Nobody wanted to take the initiative and bring a hot topic. But after a couple of days, the sparks began to fly. Everyone talked about the hardest issues we were going through, the trauma we suffered, and our hopes for the future. It was an eye-opening experience that would make you question everything you were told and hear. As a Palestinian in the United States, I experienced a huge amount of misconceptions. A large part of the American society portrays Palestinians as people who are thirsty for blood. The American mainstream media has done a great job informing these kind of stereotypes. My response to this is, not every Palestinian is a terrorist, and not every terrorist is a Palestinian. This issue is affecting our fight for human rights, equality, and the quest for a peaceful solution. The second issue is, for the last couple of months, policymakers in the United States have been questioning the ability of Palestinians to maintain stability within their future state. On one hand, we, as Palestinians, have our own battles to fight on our own soil. We do acknowledge the fact that a house divided against itself cannot stand. But I do not come into your house and tell you where to put your own furniture. So our internal issues should be solved by us and only us. On the other hand, I send a message off this podium on behalf of myself and the new generation of Palestine, the world that we can. I believe we can not only make a difference, but we also can change reality. We can even achieve the impossible. And unlike what a congressman said a week ago, without mentioning any names, we can indeed decide on the color of our own homes. The future of our conflict relies on our willingness to acknowledge our issues. And as Martin Luther King said, to make sacrifice and to take actions. Whether some of us like it or not, our future is a shared future. One cannot enjoy his drink on the beach of Tel Aviv and not care about that child who's pulling his toy from underneath the ruins of his house in Gaza. Nor can I enjoy the breeze in my garden and not care about that child who's hiding in a rocket shelter in Sderot. Realistically, we all know that our conflict is anything but being solved in the meanwhile. Things are getting more complicated every day, and the status quo is killing the two-state solution. The solution must be based on common interest and must be architected in a way that is sustainable. That is the reason why we are here. They always say, if you want to either make peace with the other side or destroy them, you have to understand them first. We are here to understand. We are here in order to create and not to destroy. This is what NSL and similar programs provide us. A platform for understanding, which will enable us, when we become the decision makers back home, to make the right choices based on our understanding of each other. We're asking you here to support us in our own struggle for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dia. Our final speaker is Or Amir, who has been a big sister to me and to almost everyone on the team. Please welcome Or.
I am female, Israeli, Jewish, secular, Moroccan, Zionist, IDF officer who still serves in reserve, a BA student, and volunteer. What do you think about me now? In Israel, when naming a child in Hebrew, the name often carries meaning. We have been named after a person who our parents wish us to be like, perhaps to honor their memory, or they just use a word which has some meaning to them. All of the above are labels. We use labels all the time in order to put some sense in our world. We're making assumptions, building some kind of idea what's in front of us before knowing it or seeing it, and deciding where are we going to end up before we take the first step. Labels are like a window to our destiny and to our future, but instead of helping us see it, they are preventing us from having it at all. My name is or Nur in Arabic, light in English. I'm 25 years old, half of 50, and I come from a city in the center of Israel called Rishon LeZion. I had a wonderful childhood. At that point, I will say thank you, Mom, thank you, Dad. I've been active as long as I remember. Ballet and piano kept me busy. A normal girl in a normal city. I remember that as a child, my parents used to take us, and still are doing so, to the old markets of Tel Aviv and Jaffa. Friday mornings, the smell of a fresh Turkish coffee, fresh falafel and hummus. Shisha's apple tobacco mixed in the air with the breeze of the sea and fish. All the colors, the different shades of red, green, blue, and yellow. All the different people, ages, the different languages, musics, smells, cultures, were all like different strings that in the end came together to a beautiful, handmade Middle Eastern carpets, like those on the pavement. In a way, I'm a secular Israeli Moroccan Jew with the Palestinian and the Arab culture were always a part of our life without knowing it, recognizing it, or meeting any of them in such a personal way as I'm doing in our program. When I'm asked by people to tell a story about the conflict, lots of moments reoccur in my mind. Stories about the Israelis in the south and in the north of Israel and the fear every time the alarm goes off because of the rockets. The scary moment of getting on a bus in Jerusalem and the constant look for a suspicious person or a package on board. The stories about the times I served in the northern Gaza Strip when I heard that a soldier 15 minutes drive away from me was kidnapped and what I did in the first operation to rescue him. But today I decided to tell you a different but similar kind of story. As you may know, in Israel we have a military service. And as a woman, I had the honor, but I was obligated to serve my country as a combat medic. During our period of training, we taught how to act when we find ourselves as single medics under fire with no mercy for injured people. The main idea was to prioritize the casualties, which basically means to decide what kind of treatment, if any at all, any of them are going to receive. I remember thinking to myself, well, that means that I have the power to decide who's going to live and who's going to die. And I said it out loud to my commander. I remember he answered me, well, you see, this is a feeling we all struggle with. But those who overcome it understand that if we try to save them all, we'll end up saving no one. With great power comes great responsibility. It's reading in the Bible and in comic books. This is how I felt regarding my position in the Army as a medic, and this is how I feel now regarding life in general. That experience and others taught me how important is the now. How sometimes we need to leave the past behind us without beating ourselves about past decisions that we've made. How sometimes we need to understand that certain things are out of our control, or that we can't change or prevent, and we need to go further towards the future. Now picture two little children sitting in a sandbox. They're arguing with pointing fingers, they're yelling, "He started it first!" And he's of course like, okay, "No, she did!" Well, the kindergarten teacher approaches them and says, "Israel, Palestine. Just stop it, you two. It doesn't really matter." And she tells a joke, and the kids are laughing. In a way, that's how I feel about the conflict. And I know, it sounds a little bit naive, but I also know there isn't a magic solution. I know that we need to invest time, energy, effort in order to make these all small changes. But before we do so, please, do not force us to leave the past. Do not force us to stay hostage by fear. One of our biggest moments as human beings, in my opinion, is to learn how to let go. It seems to me like we always need to be in control all the time, and we're trying so hard to do so. It's easier to go against the tide. It sounds more heroic, like in the books and the Hollywood movies that we all grew up on. The world is changing right now, and we are changing right now. And I am changing right now. To stay where we were years ago. Not to dare, not to dream, and not to hope. It feels to me like my future is not really mine. You all know we can't choose our parents, and it's the same for history. We can't choose our past, but it's about time. It's about time that we'll know that we can choose our future. So in front of you today, I'm letting go. I'm letting go of the past. I am letting go. I'm not trying to understand or to figure it out. I am letting go. I'm taking a sad song and I'm making it better. I am letting go. I'm not going to carry the fault or the guilt for the actions of my previous generations, as you some may think I should. And I'm not going to blame the Palestinian nation for all the pain and the suffering that Israel been through. I am letting go. I'm starting a new story with these magnificent people here with me today. We are so different, but we're so alike. We are all one. So I have only one last request. We live in the most beautiful place on earth, where olive trees grow. Taste it. Taste it. Where the sun rises in the east and sunset in the west. Witness it. Where the sand is yellow. Play with it. Build castles with it. Run it through your fingers. Where everybody around the globe feels at home. So be at home. Come with me and come with us. Be present with all these beautiful things. Be present with all these beautiful people. Take the backpack of burden and throw it to the sea. Let it go. When sitting in your office, working, clicking on your keyboard, unknowingly, you're affecting the lives of those who are living across the ocean in a familiar yet strange place, a distant yet close place. Wherever we are from, labels do not define us. Names do not dictate our future. To understand the people behind the labels, take your dressy shoes off. Walk on the sand. Dream the dreams that they are the natural rights of all of us. Israelis, Palestinians, and Americans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone who came. I want to say a special thanks to Congressman Van Hollen for speaking to us today, to Polis's office, Shad, and for all of you for coming here and supporting us. I hope that you're like me, that you've been changed, that your minds have been opened, that your hearts have been opened, and that your ears have also been opened to hear a new story, and that you're ready to be perhaps a wise person willing to offer a camel to solve a problem, to give a dove instead of a hawk, and that we'll be ready to change the community as they need to change, not as how we perceive it to be. Thank you for coming. Someone forgot a pair of shades. Forgot one? I got them.
I'm too tall, so where should I stand?
Michael, do you want to arrange this? I'm so happy this is a good moment.
I can send this to Noel. Why do we still look the same? We look the same.
Beautiful. Mary, we can't see you. You're tiny. Get to the front, goddamn. We have to see. Well, then, we have to see you better than where you
See me like this? Try it, try it.
I can't see you. Mary, for fuck's sake, you're on the steps. You might not be seen.
Come on, Mary, we want to see your face.
Magic, step back.
Guys, it's a
better.
test. If you
Beautiful,
can't see the
beautiful.
camera, I can't see you. Okay, that's fine.
You gotta show those legs. Look at those heels.
Or you can come down. Turn me there, Dave? Yeah. Turn me. Oh, look amazing.
So I want to. Okay, Mary. The body language is a bit defensive, right?
I don't know how to stand. Like,
Yeah. What do you do with your hands?
On your hips.
like this?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Woo! Nice. You look gorgeous.
Guys, and either hands coupling or hands behind the back.
No folded arms. No folded arms. Everyone look at that.
So maternal there, G. Shit, my camera's not working.
Okay.
No. Smile.
Where should we look at? Who?
Look at the main camera the whole time.
Yeah,
Okay.
this one is the important one, okay?
The other ones are spoof.
The other ones don't count.
Yeah. You guys are such a hot group.
Yeah,
You
such
really
a handsome
are.
bunch of guys.
We can auction you off to, for a fundraiser.
Yeah, we should do that. We can sell a date with each of these
Are
guys.
you getting the dome copper, yeah? And the flag?
Washington.
Look at the pose he's in.
So pretty.
You are so sexy. My God,
Woo!
Okay, now we have
What? No, I have one. Yeah.
What other promo photos do we need? Just the girls. Just girls and just guys. Just small town girl. You going back in small town?
Yeah,
Where's
stay,
Nelly?
please.
Hey, you wanna come here? Who's the girl?
Majid, you're not a girl.
Hey, Republican, get out of
Just the women.
Majid.
Oh my god.
We want to get this done. Majid, you're gorgeous, but you're not a girl.
Girls, you're not
Okay,
overhyped.
okay, this should be closer open. Megan, closer open.
No, open maybe. And just pull it across, like fix it across your chest.
Wait, don't take more pictures. Put your boobs in.
Yeah, so this way. It's much better. You're so beautiful.
I want to go.
Ah, no, squinting. No, my God.
You're so handsome. Woohoo! Model NSL 2012. Just for 2 seconds.
Yeah, the hands are the back. Like,
Yeah, put on the jacket. So in a small bit, my dad is just right next to Walid.
Smile, y'all.
Perfect. Hot guys. Hot guys.
Walid, you look suffering.
Woo! Yeah.
Michael, do you want to do like...
okay.
I'm the next one. She just wants to with the boys.
Typical Mary.
Typical American, what?
Okay, now we also need individual shots, right?
Yeah.
شوف it's too hot, يلا, let's go.
Now individual photos.
We have to do your
Management team. Where's the vote of management team?
Well, these are more important. Okay, Guy and New York.
Now we need to go out.
There you guys. Down one. Your gifts.
Yeah, down up,
And like all of you are kind of fitting in one after the other, okay?
Can you see us, Michael, at the back?
No, I can't see Kian.
Here now?
Change maybe?
Are we okay?
Sheriff.
Without the app. You switch without the